Well, well, well. The Hollywood Casino 400 at Kansas just wrapped up a little while ago, and just when you think that it would be difficult to top the chaos to open the playoffs that was Darlington, well, round two with a round of 16 to the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs proved to be just as chaotic, if not even more so, at Kansas Speedway today. It was this very interesting race where you think about the tire strategy that came into play here. You had each team only got 9 sets of tires given to them. They started the race on a set of sticker tires. They had 7 other sets in the pits in addition to the one-lap scuffs that they used in qualifying. So you had in total 9 sets of tires for this race. So from the get-go, tire wear and tire strategy was going to be kind of a big thing come the end of it. You add in that with Kansas, there is a similarity between Kansas and Darlington, and that's that the fastest groove on the track is the high groove right up against a wall. And so to ride right up against a wall means that your right rear tire is going to take a lot of stress when you come off corner exit. So to adjust for that, in order to make the car a little bit faster as well, the tire pressure is already set kind of low there in the right rear. But you add in those two factors in there, and that leads to flat tires, and it leads to a lot of blowouts. And you saw that happen really from square one here. The chaos, the playoff chaos that keeps us so glued to watching this, came into play from square one. Martin Truex Jr., your regular season champion, started off the race really tight, lost a lot of spots early on, and then it turns out he ended up having a punctured right rear tire. He hits the wall, and he was never really given a chance to go repair his car under that damaged vehicle policy clock. They towed him straight to the garage, which automatically ends his day. You may be wondering why they didn't give him a chance at the damaged vehicle policy clock, especially you think about how NASCAR has made some interesting decisions when it comes to towing people. Like, think about Joey Logano back at Pocono a month or so ago. Yeah, he had basically had all 4 tires flat and had to be towed around on flat tires 2 miles with a snatchback truck all the way around to pit road. Not to the garage, but to pit road. And here Truex just has a flat right rear and gets towed straight to the garage. As it turns out, he had a little bit more than just a flat right rear tire. Even if they had to put him on the damaged vehicle policy clock, he wouldn't have been able to continue. They wouldn't have been able to get it fixed because he damaged his suspension control arm there on the right rear. Bob Pockris said that he sheared it. I'm not sure exactly how to describe what that means, but more or less, the suspension control arm is a pretty major component down there. If it's broken, the car is going to run wobbly. Just like if the toe link had broken, the wheel would be turned sideways, the car wouldn't be drivable. So at the end of the day, Truex would have been done regardless. And so they didn't really give him a chance. They wouldn't have been able to fix it before the damaged vehicle policy clock expired. So now, to be honest, Martin Truex Jr. is now possibly in a must-win mode next week to advance into the round of 12 at Bristol. So we'll see how that goes for him. That's going to be an interesting storyline next week. Even more chaos among the playoff drivers. William Byron had an incident where he got loose coming off of turn 2 and spun out on the backstretch. Never really recovered from it. So William Byron, another rough week, did finish the race. Didn't suffer any damage from that spin or anything, so he was able to continue. But he just never really carried a lot of speed the rest of the way. Never really could advance. And so that puts William Byron in a little bit of a tight spot going forward, too. Bubba Wallace, he was running really well. I'm giving that. He was running up in second there in the first stage. He ended up finishing second in the first stage behind Kyle Larson, but he ends up blowing his right rear tire, and when he went into the wall, it broke his right rear toe link. Luckily for Bubba, he was able to get that repaired. He made minimum speed. He got the free pass, but still just didn't end up being as good of a finish as Bubba Wallace hoped for today. Puts him in a tight spot going into Bristol next week to continue on. Ross Chastain, another playoff driver, penalized at the second stage brake caution. They had a crew member over the wall too early there on pit road. Christopher Bell, they switched his pit crew up on him prior to coming into the playoffs. They brought in the 54 crew for him of Ty Gibbs. Why? Because Ty Gibbs' pit crew had been the best one all season long coming up to this point. And so far, 2 races with them in the playoffs, 2 duds for their standards that they had set this season. Basically, it seems that switching pit crews has almost had the opposite effect of what they were hoping for Christopher Bell there. And they lost 5 spots in their first pit stop, 4 spots in their second one, and then just like at Darlington last week, their third pit stop, the jack fell again while they were changing the right side tires, which is ultimately what did them in, despite having the pole and being the fastest car at Darlington. By the way, Christopher Bell had the pole this week, so back-to-back poles for him, and then back-to-back weeks where lost a race on pit road, more or less. Michael McDowell. Michael McDowell's the first playoff driver we've seen kind of throw a Hail Mary in all this chaos. He decided at the last green flag pit stop cycle not to come in. He was going to stay out as long as he could because he was running in the top 5. He was going to hope for a caution to be able to come in and maybe be able to salvage a decent enough finish to really set him up going forward next week after Darlington. But unfortunately, or after this week going to Bristol, but unfortunately, that caution never happened. And so he ends up having to pit with like 18 to go. He finishes kind of in the middle of the pack. He had some interesting strategy calls come into place here. Kyle Larson, he came in to take fresh tires under caution around lap 175. Right before that, Cliff Daniels was mulling over it on the radio. He knew, by and large, let's go ahead and get this out of the way, Kyle Larson had the fastest car out on the track today. Yes, Denny Hamlin was really solid. Denny Hamlin dominated a lot of the race. But Kyle Larson, by and large, really had the best car out there today. He was handling the best. He was driving the best. He was super confident. You could just tell it from Kyle's demeanor. When Kyle is super confident, you know he's got a car that he is loving the setup on. And he was moving. But he comes into this. Cliff Daniels said, you know what, I think that you could really pretty much pass everybody if you came down and took fresh tires right now. And so he decided to come in and pit. The reason for that was that he had an extra set of sticker tires available. And so he took those sticker tires. He ended up restarting 26th after this caution, but within like 10 laps, he was already back up in the top 10. It just kept on climbing. So Kyle Larson, again, just really fast today. Another strategy gamble there at the end you saw play out because the race ended up going to a green-white checker finish. Of course, more playoff chaos. Why not? Daniel Suarez opts to stay out when that last caution came out, so he's out there on no tires. And then you had a lot of guys that decided to take 2 tires. Eric Jones, Joey Logano, and Kyle Busch all took 2 tires in a gamble, while everybody else took 4. And as you might expect, really in the end, it was the guys that took 4 that would end up prevailing. Tyler Reddick ended up taking 4. Denny Hamlin took 4. And despite the fact that Denny Hamlin was also a strong favorite to win there in the end and looked like he had the best car, it's just another week where Denny Hamlin let a race get away from him late. He didn't get a good restart, might have spun his tires a little bit. He ended up falling back. Tyler Reddick gets around him. And then Tyler Reddick just kind of waited in the wings there, waited for a moment where Joey Logano and Eric Jones are racing side by side, coming off of turn 4, going into the front straightaway. Tyler Reddick on those 4 fresh tires makes a really aggressive, quick move down to the very apron of the racetrack, almost against the infield grass there. Comes back up, clears both of them easily going into turn 1, and never really looked back there. So nice aggressive move by Tyler Reddick. Ensures him the win in this one, and also will punch his ticket into the round of 12. So you have, out of the playoff field right now, Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick locked into the next round. And even though he's not in the playoffs, I'm going to mention it, another quietly good day for Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott finished 6th today. He was kind of in position there on that last restart to maybe make a push to try to win this one himself. In fact, Chase Elliott almost won the second stage. It's just his tires kind of ran out on him and ended up getting passed in the end. But he got held up by Daniel Suarez there on that last restart. And then, interestingly enough, right before that, there was some contact between him and Kyle Larson on pit road. Somebody's probably going to try to make a controversy out of that, but at the end of the day, there's no controversy to be found. Anybody with eyes can clearly see from the replay that Kyle Larson had nowhere to go. Brad Keselowski was pulling out of his stall. Chase was down at the bottom. Kyle was kind of stuck in the middle. And with pit road can be a little bit narrow sometimes. He just didn't really have anywhere to go, so he had to come down to avoid plowing into the 6. He ends up coming into Chase. They just barely touched fenders, but it was enough to tick Chase Elliott off. I don't think Chase knew that Brad Keselowski was down there. Hopefully he'll look at the replay and see that, but there's really no controversy there. It was just incidental contact there on pit road and didn't end up affecting either of them, as both of them ended up finishing there in the top 10. But overall, another really good, really chaotic race here at Kansas today. We'll now turn our attention ahead to Bristol Motor Speedway for the Bass Pro Shops night race next week. And if Darlington and Kansas are any indication, especially with this being a cutoff race, and with the fact that it's a short track race at Bristol, and it's a night race at Bristol, chaos is going to abound again. And I'm really looking forward to it. I will be there next week.